Well, this morning, as the bells rang, we saw investors nibbling a bit on some hard-hit stocks. If you look back at the February performance, we did see technology take a notable hit in the market as some started to question all the AI enthusiasm. However, if AI is as game-changing as many talk about it being, could there be an opportunity in the air for investors? Let's bring in Joy Yang, Head of Index Product Management and Marketing at Marketvector Indexes. Joy, what are you seeing when it comes to the AI story these days?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, there's a lot of uncertainty in the markets, and markets are remarkably calm at the moment. I think mostly because there's a lot of nervousness in the markets about reacting or overreacting because investors have been burnt previously on news that ultimately aren't implemented. But within AI, we know that AI now is the new global arms race. So, these are volatile stocks because people want to kind of look at what's happening next in the AI world. Last week we had NVIDIA, but that was quickly forgotten in all the White House shouting, but NVIDIA is a very volatile stocks. And right now we're seeing that it had great earnings last week, but there are more than just NVIDIA in the AI story or in the semiconductor story. So we're looking at the wider semiconductor industry, and we're seeing many of these stocks bounce back up. But I think investors have to be careful again when we're looking at most of these are predominantly US semiconductors. And I think investors now need to look more broadly across the global semiconductor industry or the global AI industry. And we're seeing stocks now abroad, Alibaba, the Tencents, these are all moving up again. And I think investors really have to think about the wider investment opportunity as investor sentiment now is turning away from U.S. assets and expensive U.S. stocks.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, what do you think will be the determining factors on who's right in that positioning? Because obviously the U.S. has been arguably the winner over the long term. And, there's all sorts of sectors. Like we were talking last week about how the European markets have done relatively well this year. You've seen a lot of money moving into financials in that part of the world. But sometimes it's, you have the conversation about, let's say, value versus growth. If the AI opportunity is an incredible one, if the U.S. is more aggressive in that market than anybody else and has the companies that might benefit the most, I guess it's going to be a bit of a back and forth, I would imagine, on where investors want to put their money, even if the U.S. looks expensive or got the lion's share of the attention early on.
I think, the lesson we took away from DeepSeek is that protectionism bans, can have the unintended effect of shifting competition and innovation abroad. So I think, this is still quite a really uncertain space. And I think maybe the one clear winner in all of this is ultimately, governments are interested in AI and semiconductors because they're a critical component of military intelligence and defense. So I think, one place we're looking at right now is defense stocks, and even defense ETFs are up. They're up this morning. They've been up year to date and on the 1 year. So I think this is one area that we know as governments have to shift more investments and into defense, because the message is very clear from the U.S. that abroad every country needs to really be more autonomous with their military spending. So NATO members will have to increase from 2% and some 0% to 3% of GDP. So these are, government spending in military is long term. It's big. These are, multi-year contracts. So we know these are structural shifts that will continue into defense stocks. And that's why we're seeing them go up, this morning, year to date, and we expect that to continue.
So that's interesting. You're saying not just that geopolitical tensions are a possible beneficiary, possibly benefiting the defense sector, but the fact that that's all happening at a time when we're not quite sure who's going to have the AI advantage, that countries have to be spending more on defense, which a component of that, defense spending is tied to AI, or at least providing some kind of protection against the AI threat?
Well, certainly, underneath the most critical component of military warfare now is intelligence. And we've seen kind of military move from the ground to space and now to the digital world. So, whether it's NVIDIA or Palantir, these are going to be critical components into the advantage that countries have in the arms race. So I think this is going to be really a focus for investors, governments, to see how these, where innovation will come, what will be the investment back into these companies and how some of these restrictions and bans will play out.
Really interesting stuff. Joy, thanks very much. We'll continue to watch those trends. Joy Yang joining us from Marketvector Indexes.